How many have done park activations? Okay, so some of you know a little bit about this. How many of you have not done them but want to do them? I have the name of a therapist that you can all see. So, what do you want to do with a park activation? First of all, what are your goals? I mean, you just want to get to some place, turn the radio on, make a few contacts. I mean, I hear people, well, we drove 3 hours, we hiked 10 miles up a mountain in the cold and rain and whatever, and we worked 10 people, then we ran away and went home. To me, that's dumb. But I mean, some people love that. I want to go to a place. I want to make hundreds and hundreds of contact. I want thunder and lightning coming out of my transmitter, right? That's my thing. But I've been doing this a long, long time. So making a few contacts is not. So make a few contacts, try to make as many stations as possible, something else. You have to decide that for yourself. Starting out, probably you're not going to do too much. So I want to do like a mini de-expedition. I can't think I'm in some wild country somewhere and they're piling up on me. All right, where do you want to set up? You want to set up in your car? You want to set up in a boat? I wouldn't suggest setting up in a boat this time of year. Not around here, unless it's a nice boat. RV, or you want to hike in somewhere, carry your radio in a backpack. You want to be portable at a park or at a camp or at a fest. Anyone doing a park activation from in here? No. Okay. Do your homework. What's allowed and what is not allowed? Okay. Where's everything going to fit? Where's the antenna and the feed line going to go? And it's got to be safety. If you got one of these little vertical antennas with the radials going every which way and it's a trip hazard, yeah, you don't want to do that. So what are you going to need? You're going to need a radio. You're going to need power of some sort, a battery, generator. I always make a deal with the parks. They let me plug in. Okay, the art of the deal. Can I plug in here? You don't have to hear the generator noise. The location, you're going to be sitting at a picnic bench or inside your car somewhere. Computer, headphones. I'll tell you a story about headphones in a minute. You want to have a mic, key. If you forget the mic, then you're on FT8. And then if you forget the computer, then you're not doing an activation. So those are pretty important. You want to have a tuner, and most importantly, you want to have a good antenna. Most park activations do not have good antennas. That's the sad part about it. So the basics, I call it rap. We're going to do a little rap music here. Radio antenna power. Make sure your radio is reliable. If you have a radio that kind of craps out when you're using it or does some weird, don't bring that radio. Bring a different radio. You want reliability. You don't want to have to sit there during your activation fixing things. That's not fun. Assure you can set any frequency or band. Headphones are a must. So this guy, he did an activation in a park right over in New Hampshire on the other side of the river. And it was a national park. And QRP throws a little wire up and he's got his mighty 5 watts and he's ready to get on the air. And a whole bunch of Girl Scouts get off a school bus and they're having lunch. And, I don't think they were Girl Scouts. I think it was just a girls' high school something. And they were sitting there, and he couldn't hear a thing. So he waited for that. And then they went away. They got on the buses, went by. And he's, okay, now we're going to make some contacts. And then the lawnmowers came out. And you could see him going like this. He posted this on YouTube. Now, I mean, listen, I done things all the time. I don't post them on YouTube. He did. So that is your learning exercise. Don't do that. Headphones are a must. Have a good antenna, not a convenient antenna. Have a good antenna. Have one that actually people can hear you on. Okay, have an adequate feed line. Okay, power. So you can get power from a battery. You're not going to get a lot of power. You can get it from your car. Watch the voltage though if you get it from your car, because if you draw too much power out of your car battery, your activation is going to last a wee bit longer than you expected to. Or you can get AC from a generator. Okay, I do. I just start the generator up and hey, I can run as much power as I want for as long as I want. So power for your station. Available power on site. So I bring a couple 100 feet of extension cord. It's got to be 16 or 14 gauge because you're going to get loss in that as you pull power from it. So when I do a night activation, I sometimes go to a park and stay overnight and operate all through the night. And they get a little weird about generators making noise. Now, I'm using a Honda 2000. I mean, you walk 100 feet away from this generator, you don't hear it. but still, you want to set a good precedent. So I said, you think I can plug in somewhere? Sure. And then I don't have to sit there, worry about the generator, keeping it full of gas or anything. So that's if you can plug on site. If it's a generator, you want to get at least 50 to 100 feet from it. The Hondas do generate some electrical noise on some of the bands, so keeping it away from you keeps it clean. Make sure you have enough gas for the event. I did one. I didn't fill the generator up, and about 3/4 of the way into it, it coughed and sputtered to a stop. But I was doing it with somebody else, and I just siphoned some gas from him. Start the generator before leaving. Okay, the Hondas in particular are not happy about starting in cold weather. I keep the generator in the mudroom overnight when it's a cold morning like that, and I start it before I get in the car. I start it, make sure it runs. Once it's warmed up, it's fine. Place the generator away from the station, away from bystanders. When nobody can trip on your cords and everything. We had it out in the parking lot, and one woman had a meltdown. That generator's near my car. Oh, okay. And I picked the generator as it was running because Paul was operating. So I just picked it up, moved it 2 car lengths. So that's not good enough. I said, well, it's not near your car. Well, it could explode. I said, I don't think that's going to happen. And she got mad and called the park ranger over. In the park ranger, you can see her eyes are rolling. It's like, sometimes you got to deal with stuff, Vehicle electrical system, again, you got to watch your voltage. A mistake will strand you. A separate battery. So you can get a LiFo battery, lithium ion phosphorus battery. Those things are pretty good. You can get it for 100 watts. You can get it for QRP. Make sure the battery can't short out. And here's the kicker that people don't watch. Ham radios want to run on 13.5 volts, not 12 volts. 12 volts, you're starving for power. So you better have a 13.5 volt battery or a buck boost circuit to bring the 12 volts up to 13.5. People forget that, and the radio doesn't perform as well. So the radio, choose your transceiver wisely. I have 3 options. I have my K3. I usually bring that. K3 is pretty damn good radio, right? We'll have the designer here later. He'll actually talk about it. I have an IC718. An IC718 I use when I want to get even with somebody. It works well, dirty. Okay, we brought it to field day, it wiped everyone out. It's banned from the field day site. But in a park where no one's there, sure. I also have an old DX70. It's good basic transceiver, no filtering, no Vox. I like to operate Vox, so I can do that. Then you have 100 watts versus 10 watts. If you're doing QRP, it's going to severely limit who you're going to talk to. And my mission is life's too short for QRP. I don't like, it's like talking to a senior citizen, of which I am. You say something and their answer is always, what? He's going to show you his QRP radio, right? So your necessary accessories, you need the power supply. If you're running off of AC, you need a power cable. If you forget the power cable, that's going to be a really short activation. I did that once. I didn't bring, he did it once. I didn't bring the power cable, and oh crap. And I basically cut the power cable out of the car. I had one in the car. I cut that out and did a really quick retrofit to make it work. RF jumpers, you want to jump from the radio to the tuner, to the power meter, to the amplifier, whatever you need. I use a boom headset. Put the headset on, the microphone's there, hands-free. I don't have to touch anything. Don't use a hand mic. Because you want to log, right? Unless you're a good one-handed typist, hand mic's not going to work. Don't forget the headphones, as we said. A foot switch. I use Vox. You can use a foot switch. How many operate CW? Only a few hands go up. So what they say, like in the performing arts, they're a triple threat. They can sing, dance, and act, right? Well, you're not a triple threat. You can only do phone and FT8. Well, everyone can do FT8, right? CW is a really important thing to do. When the band craps out and they're not hearing you, you go to CW, right? So if you do CW, you need the keyer, and you need the cable from the keyer to the radio, and you need the paddles and all, you need all that stuff. So computer operations, don't paper log. Please don't do that. I mean, I work somebody, well, it'll be a week or two because we have to transcribe the log from toilet paper to the computer. It's like, oh man, don't do it. I mean, I have done a paper log. That was because the battery in my computer crapped out. I was in the middle of activation and I was in the car and I was basically kept the rest of the log on a bunch of old road maps. Okay, I had to do it in a pinch, but that's not a good plan. Use the software at home before using it in the field. So POTA has this software, Ham RS. It is a piece of garbage. Don't use it. You've been warned. We used it once, and one of our operators hit F8 for some reason. F8 removes all the times from the log permanently. We couldn't upload the log now because we had no times in it. It's like there's no recovery. No, it's like, don't use that. Back up the hard drive regularly. Hard drives do fail. Yes, they do. So back it up to something, a stick, or I back it up to a floppy disk, but I'm kind of old that way. Be sure to bring the computer cable to connect to the radio if you're into that sort of thing. For FT8 or FT4, you need to bring the connecting cable. I've forgotten that a few times. So you need that cable to go from the radio to the computer. For CW, you need that connecting cable. You want to be able to spot yourself. Let everyone know you're there. Now, many Vermont state parks do not have cell service. My wife says, what if there's an emergency? Get on 20 meters and call for help. So we have a lot of state parks in the Groton State Forest, east of Montpelier. When you get 5 minutes past Montpelier, the cell signal goes away and stays that way till you hit New Hampshire, right? If you're from central Vermont, you know how that works, right? There ain't no cell service there, ain't nothing. You can call back on the repeater. So I have to tell people, so can you spot me, and we get going. Don't rely on the computer battery because it will not last very long. Well, something the newer ones do. So avoid poor compromised antennas, whips. Don't use whips as antenna. Whips are used with chains by a dominatrix. Okay? I told you this talk's going to be a little sketchy, right? No, don't do it. Oh, please. Mag loops. Mag loops is an expensive way to get a poorly performing antenna. I always have to watch. I do this talk sometimes at Dayton, and sometimes some of the manufacturing reps are there, and I kind of rank on their antenna, and you can see I got this scowl from the back of the room. End-fed half-wave. End-fed half-wave antenna is a good antenna if put up properly, high in the air, not coming down to your radio and going up to a tree 20 feet away. No, that's not going to work well. So a high dipole, by high I mean like higher than 35, 40 feet, provides the best bang for the buck. A simple dipole. I work DX on that all the time. You plant for a half wave on the lowest frequency. That means it wants to be like, we don't do 80 meter on park activations. Nobody on there. So 40 meters, 66 feet. Or you can get like a G5 RV, it's a little bit short or whatever. Horizontal inverted V or vertical configuration all work. The idea is the average height of the antenna. So if it's an inverted V, you have to average the highest part with the lowest part, right? If it's flat top, it's high all the way. The highest antenna works the best. So such an antenna is not going to be resonant. You need a tuner. I used to hate tuners as a young ham. I thought they were very lossy and whatever. No, tuners aren't lossy at all. If done right, they work quite well. But you do have to use open wire line. Can't use coax when you have a high SWR. I learned that the hard way too. So you need a balun to bring twin lead from the antenna into your radio. So before you go out, reconnaissance the site. Either go there in person, or if it's far away, you go on Google, look at the satellite map, look for the trees. If it's a treeless parking lot, no, you don't want to go there. So there's a park up in the Northeast, Sentinel Rock State Park. They had 2 trees. That's where I set up. I couldn't hang anything off the rock, right? Have an effective way to get the antenna high in the tree. So whether it's a slingshot or a fishing pole, we have air cannons in our club. So we pressure the thing with about 60 psi, aim the thing, shoot a loaded tennis ball, You got to be careful with this. You can clean somebody's clock with this, right? Put it over the tree. The ranger comes up. What are you doing? So you're shooting the trees. You know, they get all nervous. And no, it's okay. Well, you need enough cord. So, you know, if your antenna is 100 feet away and you only have 50 feet of feed line, that could be a problem, right? So you want to make sure you have enough stuff. So I show you this. This is what the vertical radiation of an antenna is like. So the first, the top one is if your antenna is a quarter wavelength high. What is a quarter wavelength high? It means 33 feet on 20 meters or 66 feet on, 66 feet on 40 meters. You radiate straight up. Some of you may have heard NVIS. NVIS is fake news. It's a bunch of baloney. Don't buy it. Somebody made it up, shouted it from the rooftops, and now it's a question on the test. You can't do NVIS on 20 meters anyway because you don't get short skip on 20 meters usually. You can do it on 40 meters, but 40 meters NVIS is basically anything under 66 feet. But as you get lower to the earth, it becomes more lossy. So you don't really want to do that. So I'm sorry, 33 feet on 40 meters. So if you're 33 feet up, it'll be a great antenna for 40 meters during the day. Not so good at night. If you want to talk to people like in the middle of the country, you want the middle picture. You want to be shooting your signal up at about a 20 to 30 degree angle, not straight up. Okay, in that case, you want the antenna a half a wavelength high, which is 33 feet on 20 meters or 66 feet on 40 meters. All right, so that's why we shoot getting it in the tree. Now, if you really want to do, you know, destruction to the band, you can use, like you want to work California, you want to work DX, whatever, you put the antenna even higher. You put it away, like 3/4 of a wavelength up. That's 50 feet on 20 meters or close to like about 80 feet on 40 meters. You see how that angle changes? The angle right here. This is what we're talking about. So in this case, all your signal's going up. Not too much is going out. Over here, it's kind of midway, and over here, it's very low. That's why they say, how high should I put an antenna? If it didn't fall down last winter, it ain't high enough. That's how this works. So understanding your signal. This is what people don't get. No such thing as a free lunch. If we take a basic station, 100 watts to a 25-foot high dipole, and now we look at the left side, the power. All right, 1,500 watts. All right, we're not going to bring a kilowatt to a park, okay? But you're going to get 12 dB a gain, 2 S units over that 100 watts. 500 watts is what I run. I run a small amplifier. You get an S unit again, only an S unit. But that S unit is important because if you are like S5, which on most radios is in the noise, people aren't going to hear you so well. And if you come up from S5 to S6, then they hear you fine. Makes a big difference right at that point, right? Now, look what happens when you get a 10 watts, minus 10 dB. You're 2 S units down from a 100-watt station. Now you're really into the noise. And that's what I'm saying. What? What did you say? What? Repeat it again? And if you're 1 watt, you're even down even further. Now look at the antenna side. Okay, a Yagi. You're not going to drag a Yagi. We used to do that. We don't do that anymore. Okay, a Yagi at 50 feet is going to give you an S unit and a half. A dipole at 50 feet is going to give you a half an S unit, mostly to the people far away. If it's close in, probably not going to make much of a difference. But look at the whip, which again, you're supposed to use with chains, right? The whip is 1 S unit down. So if you got 10 watts to a whip, which a lot of activators use, versus 100 watts to a low dipole, you add up the dBs and everything, you are minus 17 dB. You're 3 S units down from 100 watts to a dipole. 3 S units means the guy running 100 watts is S8 and is armchair copy, and you are in the noise. And a lot of people are just not going to call you. And so the situation is not as bad on 10 to 15 meters because the wavelength is smaller, but it's worse on 40. So that's why you want to do this. I mean, well, I don't want to put a lot of effort into the antenna. Well, you're not going to talk to as many people or hear them either. Now, there's another thing. Contrary to popular belief, we have things called skip zones. So this is the average skip zone on 20 meters. It's about 600 miles. How do I know this? When I drive to Dayton, I can't talk back to Vermont in Columbus, but I can talk back to Vermont in Dayton. And the same thing, I went up to Nova Scotia one time, and yeah, it's about 600 miles unless there's a short skip activity going on. That means that if you only operate on 20 meters, you've basically told the people in that circle to pound sand. They ain't going to hear you. So you want to go on 40 meters during the day so that you can fill in that hole. So know your propagation. If you live on 20 meters, you're going to discriminate against everyone within a 600-mile radius. Use the low bands like 40. 10 and 15, maybe. They're very persnickety bands. Sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. So your mentality is don't aim for mediocrity. You may just meet your goal. That's not good. Put up the best station you can put up, and yeah, the poor antenna and low power will guarantee that you'll discriminate against the other weak guys. I tell people, I say, well, you know, can I work? Yeah, I says, I'm doing the activation for 5 hours all during the day. At some point, you're going to hear me, and I'm going to hear you. So not being heard is not fun. That's basically it. And sometimes I go there, and I got great at station, amplifying everything, and no one's coming back to me. There's a park, Hazen's Notch. You might have heard of it, right? It's in the middle of nowhere. I went there. I didn't do so well. I only made 300 contacts. To me, that's terrible. I went back, and I still only made 300 contacts. So I don't know if the propagation stinks right there or I just picked the 2 worst days. So quickly, I'll show you some pictures. When you don't have trees, this is in the Lowell Urban Park or whatever. I put up a 25-foot mast just to get the dipole above the ground. And I ran a generator. You can see by the front wheel, there's a generator there. And he says, well, do they allow generators there? I said, I didn't ask. He just started it up and did it. I worked Japan on 40 meters with that antenna. So I know it worked. So I'm going there and it gets dark. It got dark. And I'm in the middle of an urban city, which is probably a bit on the sketchy side. Anyone from Massachusetts? I think it's a lot on the sketchy side, actually. But the rule is in a pileup, you work the pileup. Whether your life is at danger or not, you think about that later. This is the federal monument. I'm standing on Wall Street in New York City. That's the statue of George Washington. You notice George Washington has an appendage coming out of his backside? I'll give you a close-up of it. Like that. That's a 40-meter dipole. So, oh, I couldn't put up an antenna. I could. Some guy comes by and said, did the police stop you? I said, no. I said, some guy said he was the block captain. He said, do you have permission to do this? I go, yes, I do. I talked to him. They said, don't burn the joint down. It's a national monument. Fine, no problem. So that building across the street, that is the stock exchange, actually. We pulled in about 200 queues from there with 40-story skyscrapers all around us in the rain. This is Alice State Park, Bear Mountain in Vermont, Brookfield. We pressed a fire tower into service. We really did well there. Night Point State Park. That's how we get the antenna into the tree. So ergonomics, you could be doing this for many hours. I do this for 5 hours. So you want to be comfortable. If you're setting up in a picnic table or outside, you got plenty of room, but you're at the mercy of the weather. Whenever I set up outside, it rains. I don't want my stuff getting wet, particularly the amplifier, which is a tube amplifier and it's got 2,000 volts on the plates. You don't want water getting into that. That's not cool. You can set up a tent or a shelter, but that takes time to set up a tent or a shelter, and I don't want to do that. I have a minivan. The center seat in my minivan I'm not a soccer mom, so I had no need for the middle seats. I took those out. They're in the basement. That's where they sit. I set up a table in there, put the radios in there, whatever. That's my mobile ham shack. And I can put heat on or air conditioning or whatever I need. I have operated from the car. It's not fun. It's pretty cramped and whatever. It gets tiring after a while. So these are some outside activations. This is in Waterbury State Park. This is in Underhill. You see the big amplifier there? This is a SB200. Because, God, I didn't know they put those on park activations. Says, I do. This is the K3, and this is my big kilowatt tuner. And the fan, because it was a hot day that day. This is at the, this is on Wall Street. We were just sitting on the stoop there. It was cold. It was miserable. We were using a LiFo battery, and that's the laptop. The laptop kind of crapped out after a couple hours, and I told the guy I was operating with, "This is, you want to go back to the car and get another battery?" He goes, "No." We were all soaking wet, but we had a load of fun. Here we're pressing a lean-to into service. This is a canopy. This is by Knight Point State. No, this is Camp Kilcare State Park. This is inside of Bob's Vanagon. This is Bob. He's wandering around with the camera. This is what the inside of my van looks like. And this is my station, the SB200. You see the tuner under it, and right here in the corner is the K3. We set up in Bob's Toyota. That was another cramped operation as well. Here I am in a car, you know, in the front seat. So operator requirements. If you're going to do like a quickie activation where you work 10 people and run away, you don't need very much. But if you're going to operate all day, I try to get to a park by 10 o'clock because most Vermont day parks open at 10. You want to get there because the parks fill up and there may not be adequate parking spot for you under the trees, right? So I get there at 10 and I usually stay until like 5 or 6. So you got to have lunch. You got to have something to eat and drink, right? So I bring that. You want adequate clothing because the weather is weird. I do overnight things, so if you're doing overnight, you have to have the right clothing for that. You got to bring supper. I won't tell you about the time I tried to do a hamburger on the barbecue while running a pile up on 40 meters. It was not pretty. You want to have heating for cold climates, fan for warm climates, and you know, you need to bring the sleeping bag if you're overnighting. Overnight's great because when I'm setting up the sleeping bag, I put the station on FT8 where I don't have to really pay much attention to it, so I can make contacts while setting the van up. So plan your operating before the event. Learn the details of the location, the directions, requirements, how to get there. It's kind of stupid getting lost, getting to the park and killing an hour and a half, right? And having operated at Maidstone. Maidstone is you basically drive northeastern Vermont to the point where it says end of the world, half a mile. There. You can't get there from here. There's a whole area that you have to drive around. It takes forever. You got to know what you're doing. Pre-announce your activations on the POTA and the WWF. It's Worldwide Fauna and Flora. That's the European group, whatever. We subscribe to both. You let them know where you're going to be so people will know looking for you. During the event, call CQ. If you go around hunting and pecking, they can't find you. You'd be surprised how many people try to call me. Give your call sign at the end of each contact, right? You always give that call sign out. Spot yourself. Remember, 20 meters is best in the daytime, but you got to include 40 meters. I usually go to 40 meters late afternoon. If things are slow, try CW. You might have to go to FT8, but if you're on FT8, you're not giving your park code out. After the event, upload the log to POTA. I'm not very good at that. It takes me usually a couple of weeks because I have hundreds of contacts. So operability, this is pretty important too. Practice, practice, practice. Make a lot of QSOs. That's how you get good at this. Regular participation in contests. End of June is field day. Get your butt to a field day group. All right. We run one right here in the Burlington area in Essex. Come see one of the guys here and we'll get you set up with that. Always use phonetics with your call sign. You don't say W1SJ. The S sounds like an F or it sounds like an X on the radio. It's Sierra Juliet or Susan Japan, or if that doesn't work, stupid jerk. That works. Don't rush your call sign or slur letters. People, don't rush that. Say your call sign slowly. So our club calls W1NVT. And I tell them, say W1 November, pause, Victor Tango. They hear the Victor Tango. Oh, it's a rare country. I want to work Vermont. Give the park number and the state. Say Vermont. Vermont gets them going, right? Don't repeat back the exchange. Don't say, thank you for New Jersey. Never thank anyone for New Jersey. Thank them for taking New Jersey away, not... I hear that. Well, thank you for New Jersey. Okay, learn to actively listen. Many of the calling stations will be in the noise. Know how to work your radio. There's tricks you can use with the bandwidth, with the RF gain, whatever, to pull people out of the noise. All right, so be able to change bands or modes if conditions are poor. If you call activators, others can now find you. Don't say park to park. Okay, they all do that. Park to park, park, and they say it real fast. Park to park, park to park. It sounds like a bunch of parrots. First of all, if a couple of people are saying park to park, how do I go back to you? They're all saying the same. Just give me your call sign. Whether you're in a park or not, I don't care. I mean, I'll work you. If I can hear you, I'll work you. Always use phonetics. Don't say QRP for the express reason I don't give a damn. I mean, I don't care how much power you're running. I don't care whether you're single or married. I don't care about your sexual preference or your race. I just want your call sign and your report. That's it. You can send me an email later on giving me one guy, well, I'm running QRP, and he's telling me the radio and how long the antenna is. And of course, he's in the noise. I can barely hear him. That's all fine and good, but that's not what we're doing here right now. So I'll work everyone. He says, well, you give everyone 5 and 9. So if I give you 5 and 9, it means I copied you. If I don't give you a report, it means you don't get 0, 0, right? So the checklist, I go down this checklist, make sure I bring everything. The trick here is I set the station up in the living room or another room. I actually build the station as is and turn it on, make sure it works. And like if you're missing a power cord, it's going to become pretty evident when you go turn the radio on, it don't work. Oh, we need a power cable. That's how you assure that you bring everything. So yeah, I mean I live by this list. It's really important. So this was a activation we did on Burton Island D Expedition in Lake Champlain. We went over on the ferry, packed all my stuff in this stocks. In this big suitcase, we brought the amplifier on the boat. So build your station in the shack. If you forget the key items, your activation is over. So do a lot of operations, practice make perfect. It's 9 o'clock. I'm done. Go look me up later if you have questions. Thanks, everybody.